you remember I told you about indentured servants?
Right.
Yes.
Well, there was this one indentured servant who left, and according to the guy who hired him, he said that he cheated him out of a couple of months of his servitude. So he went to court to get this guy to return. But here was the problem. When he took him to court, he said to the court that this guy insisted that the court grant his petition that he, quote, had this man for life. In other words, he was claiming the services of this man for the remainder of his natural life. He took him to court. The court ruled on this favor. It says that forthwith John Casor, Negro, shall be turned into the service of his said master, Anthony Johnson, and that Robert Parker would make a payment for all charges in the suit and execution. This was the first legal sanction of slavery in America. And here's the shocking thing for me. The fact of the matter is, Anthony Johnson was a Negro, and John Casor was a Negro. So the first official slave owner in America was a black man.
Owning another black man.
Exactly. That was the first official case of slavery in America. A black man owning a black man as slave. So the first slave owner was not a white man, it was a black man.
Okay, Ben, let me ask this question. When you mentioned indentured slaves, wasn't it white people in that category as well?
Yeah, they were not slaves, they were servants.
Yeah, servants, indentured servants, when you mentioned that term.
Yes, there were whites as well as blacks, when I said earlier. Whites and blacks were both indentured servants. They served a specific period of time, and at the end of that time, they were given 40 acres of land, and so they could go and then become free citizens, and there was nothing connected with being indentured servants. In other words, that didn't make you less than a citizen.
Okay, they were given the same amount. Blacks and white, there was no discrimination.
Exactly.
Absolutely none. They were given, and because of that, we had a lot of black people that became very, very wealthy because they took that land, and as I read your book, if they had 4 children, each one of the children got 4 acres of land and a mule. Is that correct? And it was the same in the black and the white. So we had, I'm reading right here on page 7, that one wealthy black sugar plantation owner owned over 100 black slaves, had land holdings valued at over $250,000, making him one of the richest blacks in Louisiana, of all places, maybe or perhaps the richest black in the United States of America. A widow and her son, black, owned a plantation, worked more than 150 slaves. The same census lists several blacks owning 65 or more slaves. And I could go on and on because of your book, but that's not something that the citizens of the United States know about today. And I have to ask the question, how did this country get from the whites and the blacks being treated totally equal to where it is today?
Well, if you go back and look at history, you'll find that there was something happening. And I know a lot of people are not going to like this, but the Democrats are the ones who are responsible for what happened to us across the separation between whites and blacks. So the Democrats obtained power after the Civil War, that they are the ones who are responsible for the way things exist today in America. Remember, the Civil War was fought to free slaves, and actually was brought to keep the southern states from seceding from the Union and breaking up the Union. Slavery was just one of the issues.
Right.
But they were fought to keep that in. It was not till after the Civil War, and in order to keep the South happy, when the North had said, okay, enough of this already, let's go back to business as usual, the South said, well, we'll do that, but here are some of the things we have to happen. You have to give us sovereignty over our states and let us run our business our way. And they did, and unfortunately that is when slavery became the official policy of the United States of America. Again, it wasn't actually slavery, it was rigid segregation, but they were treated just like slaves.
Exactly. That's when we begin to see the separate housing, separate bathrooms, separate. You couldn't in many cities in the South at a certain time of the day, curfew came. No African Americans could be on the streets or whatever the case may be, and they suffered horribly for it. But and the point that you keep bringing out in the book is that the very party that African Americans are championing today and voting in overwhelming numbers are really the very party that enslaved them to begin with.